Welcome back to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really pleased to have with me once again Robert Giustra. He's the CEO and chairman of Columbus Gold Corp. Columbus Gold Corp trades in Toronto under the symbol CGT, and you can buy it in the United States, as I have, under the symbol CBGDF, CBGDF. Trading earlier today, I know at US 42 cents or 48 cents in Canadian money, about 135.8 million shares outstanding, and gives it a market cap in U.S. dollar terms of around $57 million. Robert has been actively engaged in the creation, financing, and development of management of publicly traded mining companies since 1992, and his early experience in public markets includes working as an investment advisor with a national securities broker and later as an investment banker with an international investment dealer. So that's where he co-founded an institutional equity sales and corporate finance departments with a specialist focus on the junior mining sector. So he comes well prepared from the financial side of this business, which is one of the most important parts of making a successful exploration company. You need the financing abilities as well as the technical abilities. So Robert brings that, and he also brings an ability to deal with people, which is another very important aspect. Welcome, Robert. It's really good to have you with me again.
Thanks, Jay. I'm happy to be here.
Really good to have you. I should mention before we get started that I do own this stock. I purchased it in my retirement account. It is recommended in my newsletter. It's one of my top picks, but I'm not alone. There's a lot of other newsletter writers. Doug Casey's International Speculator is there with a recommendation. Lawrence Ralston likes it as well, and Brian London. These are friends of mine that own this stock and have recommended it. And it's not that I recommend only things that my friends recommend, but I just I have a high regard for those gentlemen, and I thought it would be worthwhile letting my listeners know that I'm not alone. In fact, I think there's a lot of newsletter writers and people that are following this company for some good reasons, have put it ahead of the list of many hundreds, if not thousands, of junior mining companies out there. So anyway, welcome. It's really good to have you, Robert. I'd like to start out by asking you, just for the sake of our listeners that may not be familiar with your flagship property, which is the Paul Isnard project in French Guiana, tell our listeners about that project. How many ounces of gold do you have? What are the prospects of them getting produced, and what kind of profitability might we anticipate? Although I know it's still early to answer that last question, perhaps.
A little early to talk about profitability. We're still at the development stage, Jay, as you know. But it certainly looks like it has the potential to be very profitable. It's presently a very large deposit. It's 4.3 million ounces of gold. Someone mentioned to me the other day that according to their due diligence, they were able to identify less than 10 junior mining companies in the world with a deposit that big. Mm-hmm. It's in French Guiana, as you mentioned. What your readers might not know is that French Guiana is part of France, so it also benefits from being in a politically stable jurisdiction. But we're presently drilling, and it's going to get a lot bigger pretty quick with another resource estimate in a couple of months.
Well, you can find gold in the ground, and maybe the markets will pay you something for that, Robert, but from my perspective, what really matters is what are the chances of getting it out and earning a profit. And, it's a gigantic task for a junior mining company to do it alone, especially in markets like this where it's very difficult to raise capital efficiently. So I think very wisely last year, and one of the reasons that I'm so enthusiastic about your company is that you improved the odds of success dramatically when you signed an agreement with Nord Gold. That's a major company, a major gold mining company, because they have the resources, the technical resources as well as the financial resources to help you along. Now, if you could possibly tell our listeners, what arrangement did you make with this major company, Nord Gold?
Well, Nord Gold is the fastest growing gold company in the world. When word was out that we were looking for a major partner to assist us in developing the project, all the usual names showed up and had a look. I can say that all of them were interested. But Nord Gold was by far the most aggressive. The deal we managed to arrive at with them was one of the best I've ever seen, and most people agree, in the 20 years I've been in the business. It's an earn-in that allows them to earn only half of the project, 50.01% in this case, by funding all of the work to take it to the economic feasibility stage. In that process, they have to spend at least $30 million, and they have to do it in a very short period of time of less than 3 years, with half a year already passed.
Okay, well it's very unusual, I would say, to be able to hold on to basically half of a project when you've got, especially in a market condition like this, where the senior would know that the junior is going to have a tough time raising capital. So kudos to you for doing this. Tell us a little bit about how does this company, Nordgold, because I think it's probably a name that might not be that well known to Americans, how does it rank among some of the other gold mining companies that might be more familiar?
Well, they're presently the 13th largest in the world, but they've come out of nowhere in only 8 years to go from 0 ounces of production to presently over 900,000 ounces. I believe it was 925,000 ounces of production last year on $1.4 billion in revenue. So they're quite substantial, and your listeners might not have heard of them because they haven't been around for very long, but they are listed in London on the big board, and they're quite substantial. Most of their growth has come from mergers and acquisitions. They presently operate 9 gold mines in 4 countries, and at least 8 of those were acquired through M&A, principally by taking out 3 other junior mining companies over the last 8 years.
I know, as you just noted, it's too early to really talk about in any kind of definite terms what the economics of this project might be, but there had to be something there that a project of Nordgold's caliber would be interested in. They had to see some prospects. What do you think are some of the factors that makes this potentially a highly economic project?
Well, I'll comment on the politics because I think that factored into their decision as well, Jay.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll comment on that as well. But I need to emphasize that we're in a very politically stable country, France. There's rule of law. There's a legal system that works if you have any problems. What's unfortunate about our business, often these opportunities are found in countries that are not so stable. Countries like the Congo, for example, where as soon as you find something of value, a general or somebody powerful comes along and takes it away from you. We don't have those sort of issues in operating in France, and we certainly don't have the same sort of corruption issues. So they were, first and foremost, I think, attracted to the safe jurisdiction. Secondly, to the amount of ounces in the ground already. And thirdly, they can clearly see from going through the data that the deposit has the potential to get much larger. And fourthly, also the fact that you could actually get the ounces out of the ground. Metallurgy is excellent. Metallurgical testing that's been done on the property shows that better than 90% of the gold is extractable through conventional cyanide, and the deposit is extractable by open pit methods, which is, of course, very preferable to mining underground. And I think, lastly, you can drive to this deposit. So access being very good was also a determining factor. So there were a lot of reasons ultimately that, when all combined, made it quite obvious that this was an opportunity that they wanted to be involved with.
What are some of the near-term catalysts that investors might be looking forward to? Because you mentioned that the Nordgold is on a fairly short timeline here in order to move this project through to feasibility. But what might investors be looking at in the near term that might drive this stock, or might give some reasons for people to get interested? Aside, of course, I think the major thing, in my own view, is that if we see a turn in the equity markets, people are going to start looking for value, and I think they're going to find value in your company earlier than they find value in a lot of others. But aside from that, in terms of the project, are there some catalysts that investors should be keeping their eyes on?
Well, absolutely. We're drilling. And as you know, Jay, there's hardly anybody who's drilling in the business right now because of difficult market conditions, which we think have bottomed out. That's another conversation for another time. But we, in a market environment where there isn't a lot of capital for drilling activities, we actually have 3 drills turning on the project. And that's with the aim of completing a drill campaign on with tight spacing of 50 meters in order to raise the confidence level in the existing 4.3 million ounces actually that have been identified, and also in order to raise the amount of ounces, and we think it's going to get a lot bigger. That drill program completes in about 2 weeks, at which point we've begun working on a new resource estimate, which we anticipate will be out in January. So the next major catalyst is announcing a new resource estimate, which we feel very confidently is going to result in more ounces and in a higher level of confidence, particularly in raising most of those ounces from the inferred category into the more confident indicated category, and perhaps a measured as well.
Robert, you mentioned the upside, that you have upside potential here. I'm curious to know whether or not that would be, on surface, or is it at depth?
It's in many ways, Jay. The deposit is 2.5 kilometers long. It is wide open on strike yet. There's at least up to 5 kilometers of geochem, geophysics, and geology, which all indicate that the deposit is going to get longer along strike. It's going to get deeper because we've only drilled it down to what we feel is the open pit potential, to about 250 meters. But these types of deposits, these greenstone type deposits, which are very common in this part of the world and in West Africa, they're known to go to the center of the earth. So it really just becomes an economic decision on how deep you want to drill them and exploit them. And certainly, once the pit's exploited, then there's going to be plenty of potential to follow the gold down deeper and to be extracted by underground methods. Also, there are parallel zones, and by parallel zones, I don't mean separate targets 500 meters away. I mean actual parallel zones that can be exploited in the existing anticipated pit design that will certainly add some ounces as well. So it's going to grow by all of those methods, but it's also going to grow internally between what are presently widely spaced holes. As I said, we're drilling on 50-meter centers, and that will have the effect of adding ounces in areas where there's presently very wide spacing within the envelope of the deposit.
Well, it certainly does look like there's a lot of upside. That's the way I see it anyway, and I really appreciate that. But you're not a one-trick pony. You also have a lot of different prospects in Nevada. In fact, I think my favorite model in the junior sector is the prospect generator model, which you are employing in Nevada. You have, how many properties do you have in Nevada?
We have 15 projects. But as you know, we're absolutely focused on just one at the moment, which we call Eastside.
Right. Yeah. Tell us about that, because that's also something I think the market probably isn't paying much attention to either. I mean, not that the market cares much about gold mining companies at all these days, but that's why I think this is such an exciting opportunity. Tell us about Eastside. So you have something, I think, very substantial potentially there, in addition to the Paul Isnard.
Well, I think the first benefit of Eastside is that it's in Nevada, which is perhaps the best gold mining jurisdiction on the planet. Every major mining company has operations in Nevada for a reason. The project is also located in a part of Nevada with outstanding infrastructure. It's 6 miles from the paved highway that goes from Reno to Las Vegas. There is a major power transmission line that runs right through the project. There's water on site, which could be an issue in Nevada, as you know. Not an issue here. We have an existing well that we exploit from for the drilling. We're on the edge of the flats, and it's in a part of Nevada you can work in year-round. It really is the dream location to find a gold mine. The other main advantage is that the drilling currently indicates that the mineralization is all oxide, and what that means is it's easy to get the gold out of the rock. And these are exactly the sort of projects that major mining companies look for. It checks all of the boxes, Jay. In addition, we're drilling really excellent grade.
Excellent. Well, when do you expect to have a resource on that? Do you have a time frame for that?
Well, we're presently permitting a 12-month program. We expect to have all of our drilling permits in December, kicking off a pretty aggressive program in January. We're going to drill 250 holes, and we expect to have a resource estimate by the end of next year. So there's going to be drilling news coming out of French Guiana, and in parallel with that in Nevada as well, in addition to all the other things that you would expect for projects at this stage, like metallurgical testing and so on. There'll be results, and in French Guiana, we're also well in the middle of all of our baseline environmental studies, so we expect it to be a pretty eventful 2015.
Oh, it sure looks like it. With the minute we have left here, I truthfully believe that we are very near the bottom in this gold bear market that's lasted 3 years from now, over about 3 years. And I'm sure, I hope I'm not just talking my book here. I believe that we're on to it. How do you see yourselves coming out of this? You where you want to be, pretty much, with both of your projects? Because when we get a good bull market in gold, it's going to be a lot easier to raise capital. So what are your thoughts in terms of where you'd like to be when this bull market turns around, or when we finally resumes?
Fortunately, we don't need capital. We're extremely well funded at the moment, with Nordgold funding the work in French Guiana, to which we also get a management fee of 10% of all the money it's spent there.
Terrific.
It covers all of our overheads, and we're well funded for carrying out our drilling in Nevada. But I do agree with you, Jay. I think the gold market has bottomed out. I'm looking at it from a different point of view. I know you're looking at the world situation at a world scale with macroeconomics and perhaps microeconomics. But I'm seeing things in the boardroom that are clear indications to me, and I'm also seeing things on the ground. So, for example, I'm getting calls from bankers offering us money. That hasn't happened in 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm getting calls from hedge funds, bargain hunting. They're expecting a turnaround, so they want to find good positions to take and promising companies. Again, that hasn't happened in 4 years. And for the first time in 4 years, we're also getting phone calls from other junior mining companies looking for projects in Nevada.
Oh, wonderful. That's wonderful.
And and as you know, Jay, we've both been around long enough to know that when the gold market comes back, it always starts in Nevada. It's a safe jurisdiction, and that's where companies go looking first for projects.
Yeah.
So we're fairly optimistic, and when the market does come roaring back, what your listeners should be considering, Jay, is where do they want to be when that bull market comes roaring back? Do they want to be invested in companies that are just beginning and exploring and looking for a deposit? Or do they want to be shareholders in a well-positioned company with many ounces in the ground in the middle of an aggressive drill program?
No, there's no question about where I want to be. I know, Robert, I want to be owning companies that have something in the ground, especially now that you can buy them at such a severe discount. I think now is the time to buy companies with ounces in the ground. Later on, those companies with nothing more than moose pasture will be looking out to raise capital. Well, let's stay ahead of the game and own companies like Columbus Gold, a number of others on my list as well. But I want to thank you again, Robert, for being with us today. Look forward to doing it again sometime in the near future.
Thanks, Jay. Much appreciated.